And we're back. And I don't know how much you can see of me. I'm a blind film critic, so I literally do not know what my videos look like or what I look like. That's a weird thing, right? To say. I don't know what I look like anymore. I used to be able to see, so I have like an old representation of myself in my head. I have no idea. Anyway, I was walking around at work the other day and I had a shirt on. And it was my X-Men shirt. It was well timed. I live on graphic tees. And man, I had so many people stop me and be like, hey, that's a good shirt. Hey, that's a cool shirt. I like your shirt. I was like, everybody's watching X-Men 97. So, uh, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So this is my recap for 3 and 4, because I didn't do 3 last week, which is actually very sort of happenstance because 3 and 4 are a part one, part two. And I did not know that when I just kind of did 1 and 2 first, and then I broke and did 3 and 4. So let's talk some apocalypse. So yeah, the whole arc here between episode 3, which was released last week, and episode 4, which was released this week, is Apocalypse. It's the same characters. We don't jump back into another timeline. We don't find out what's up with Havok or any of those other characters. So your primaries here are Magneto, Professor X, Rogue, Beast, Nightcrawler, Bishop, and Apocalypse. I don't think I missed anybody. I think those are all the main people. And they all are in the past. They have journeyed on the journey to the past. If you got that reference, you didn't click subscribe. Anyway, so excellent voice work. I mean, this cast, even the ones that aren't the actors, sound so much like the original cast. I will give a note. I feel like Bishop is pushing a little into Gambit territory, and I kind of wonder if that's why we didn't like expunge Gambit from the series, is because they're like, well, we need Bishop, and they're starting to sound a little bit like the same person. So, um, which is kind of a shame, but yeah, Bishop is starting to sound a little bit like Gambit to me, and a little bit with that accents to him. So otherwise, it's they just arrive at the dawn of Apocalypse before he becomes Apocalypse, when he's, I don't remember his name, Amundsen Moore. I'm going to butcher that name. Um, and he's about to rise up against the Pharaoh. He rises up against the people he can rise up against. And there's this pyramid, and there's a Pharaoh. Magneto is really the one who's taking the lead here. He's the one who is like, no, no, I have been so wrong throughout my life, Charles. Let me do this for you. And he's trying to teach Apocalypse the better way of doing things, of not killing somebody, of not doing these things. Which Charles is actually resistant to. He's like, no, this is Apocalypse. What are you doing? This is the worst villain that ever was and ever will be. So Magneto's trying to talk some sense into him, believing that because he can change, Apocalypse can change. Which actually kind of works until until Apocalypse feels betrayed by them, which was kind of just a simple miscalculation of, they went with like, we're travelers. And it's like, you didn't want to say from another time, because then you could do the whole like, we're from another time, and things are not so great for mutants over the course of history, and you're the first mutant. You have the opportunity to set like a different tone for everybody, but the tone that you set makes people scared of mutants for the remainder of history. So if you could not, that would be great. That would be my take on this whole thing, would be, hey, that's the real here, is that you're the first, and after you, there's a whole bunch of people whose lives are made harder, and mutants who are killed, because of the fear that you injected from becoming the first mutant. And if you were, benevolent in some respect, then perhaps everyone who comes after you would therefore benefit from it. Because Magneto's he's like, what if that dream that you've always been, searching for, the humans and mutants coexisting, could actually happen? We could set that tone right here. Charles is worried that it would, send too much of a ripple throughout time without knowing what a change like that would mean. It's an interesting timeline for actually, had Magneto actually been successful, because then it's like, well, all of the people who have died due to human mutant violence, the Sentinels wouldn't exist. So I mean, like, there's so many things that if you could actually flip that, it's worth trying. So anyway, but it's also one of those things where it's like, if they're successful, like, one of these mutants could just like disappear and then be forgotten. It's just like, where? Oh, didn't we used to have somebody called Rogue on the team? So, uh, of course, that doesn't work out for them after Apocalypse rises and they try to get the information, because Beast is trying to fix it so that they can travel home. And Beast, Rogue, and Nightcrawler all sort of take a little bit of a backseat to the main plot of Magneto and Charles sort of interacting primarily with Apocalypse. Eventually, Apocalypse senses that there's an ulterior motive from Charles and Eric, and attacks them. They're able to fend him off for a little while in the beginning, because this is when Bishop shows up and he blasts him with his his guns. And I was gonna say they blast him with a blaster. I don't know, his guns. I don't. So, they're trying to figure out a way out of it, but Charles is also trying to extradite some information, and he enters the brain of one person, and it becomes sort of like a little bit of a nightmare. And he's met there by the Pharaoh, who ends up revealing that they're not really the Pharaoh, at least by any stretch of the imagination in terms of historical relevance, that there are beings that came from somewhere else, another planet or whatever, another timeline, and that they brought this technology, this pyramid, there to begin with, and to create, I guess, Apocalypse in the beginning. And the Pharaoh's like, across all timelines, you always lose to Apocalypse. And this Pharaoh says he's referred to by many things. And one of the things he says he's referred to, and they kind of stick with it, is Kang. I'm like, I guess if it's not going to work out for them in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they might as well do a Kang storyline in X-Men 97. Because when in Rome, right? You don't want to waste the character. So, yeah, this is we're gonna have a Kang storyline. And there's one line that I thought was super cheesy, mainly because of how he deserves it. He delivers it as the Pharaoh is like about to like leave. Kang is about to leave, and he's leaving his, I can't remember what she was to him, but like assistant or something, or behind. And he's like, they're going to need something external. I was like, good God. Could you telegraph any less, please, as a voice actor? So, probably let some people run in. Okay, so what was external? Let's see what this was. It felt like a Dr. Evil moment where it was just so, like, there's like a pause, and then he says it so that you know that there's an emphasis behind it. Like, this is important. Are you listening to me? So, and then he absconds from the area, leaving these guys to fight off Apocalypse. So they have their way home, but Magneto is trying to, they're like, well, we have to leave. We can just leave Apocalypse, and we got to get out of there. So Magneto, they all have these little bands on them, and Magneto basically shoves everybody back through the time portal. And except Charles grabs onto Magneto's cape and then doesn't go. I don't know. So he's left behind. So it's like Magneto and Charles and Apocalypse. And Apocalypse, Magneto closes a black hole, which is impressive. Like, that's amazing. In a very sort of action-packed sequence where Magneto's using his powers to the fullest extent of his abilities, he manages to like move things around and keep him control as much metal as possible. Remember, like he's like 3,000 years BC, so there's not like a ton of metal. It's just not like everywhere. They used, I mean, pyramids used to be built of brick, sandstone, so this is not. I don't know how much metal they're really using here, but somehow, against all historical odds, he manages to close a black hole, and then afterwards he is met with Apocalypse's full weight of his abilities, and he's weak, and he's knocked into like he's flies into the sky, falls down, creates a crater when he lands because he's able to put a small force field around himself so he doesn't die when he falls. But he does die because Apocalypse walks over and uses his abilities on him and evaporates Magneto, like shoots him, and there's nothing left. There's just the helmet. And so Charles is sitting there with Magneto's helmet, cursing Apocalypse, and it's kind of sadistic towards the end too, because Apocalypse is like telling Charles, like, look at him, tell him it will be okay. And I'm like, whoa, we're getting into some dark territory here. Like, hello, Hannibal Lecter. Like, where are we going with this scene? So, X-Men 97, which has never been afraid to kill off characters that it didn't need, kills off Magneto. However, there's still a version of Magneto out there, because if they go into a certain part of the timeline, they can pull Magneto from that timeline. Now that we're time hopping all over the place, there's still, it's not that he doesn't exist, because this is him at a certain age traveling back to the past where he dies. So if you travel to a little bit before that, you could still pick up Magneto, pull him into your timeline. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, there are ways of recapping and changing things so that he never went back, or I don't know, whatever. So whether or not we ever actually go there, but now that we're screwing around with the timelines and Kang's here and everything, so could we see Magneto again? Yeah, we could see Gambit again. Yeah, we could see all these people again. It's not really limited if we're hopping throughout history. So that was the first two episodes. Dominated heavily by Apocalypse, Magneto, and Charles, and to a lesser extent the others, who all had lovely voice work. I mean, that Rogue sounds exactly like what I remember as a kid. Beast sounds exactly like what I remember as a kid, and why Kelsey Grammer got the part in X-Men to begin with, because they had already set the standard. Let's be honest. People already had an idea of what Beast sounded like, and it wasn't what Nicholas Hoult was doing in the later movies. It was Kelsey Grammer. So there's a reason why that man ended up in an X-Men movie. It's not because he can fight really good. So, and then of course, Nightcrawler. I mean, this person is doing their best Alan Cumming impersonation. So, yeah, excellent vocal performances, and I really enjoyed the episode, as I do all of the. Now, the audio description, on the other hand, so most of my problems with the audio description have been in episode 1, where we ignored Sentinels and just declared them robots. So oversimplifying things, not my cup of tea. But in the later episodes, I don't know. I heard somebody else in the blind community was talking about how this AI voice is not pronouncing everything correctly. I don't catch that. There isn't anything that I've heard, unless they grew up hearing Xavier all the time instead of Xavier. But a lot of what I've always heard is that it's Charles Xavier because they want you to hit that X because he's Professor X, not Professor Xavier, Professor Z, you know? So they've always allowed that hard hit on the X because he's Professor X. So I want it to be human, and I think it's despicable that Disney went to AI voices for this. And it's more telling of the future that we're headed for, that they're going to continue to use synthetic voice on properties. The fact that this has been allowed into the Marvel property at all is troubling. And the fact, you know, it's like watching a Star Wars movie and you're like, is this AI? You know, like you just think like with their top tier stuff that they're not gonna, that's not where they're gonna put it. So, but it is, sadly. I haven't graded the season yet, but I'm a huge X-Men fan. I don't know how this could possibly go rotten for me. I mean, yes, it is possible. I haven't put all my Rotten Tomatoes up for all the X-Men films, but Dark Phoenix is not going to make the cut in the world of fresh / rotten. I can make excuses for a lot of films, but I have nothing for Dark Phoenix. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.